This interview is brought to you by people just like you. This first launch on Patreon and to YouTube members, so a big thanks to them for backing. If you would like to do so, you can go to patreon.com/SafeStatePlus or become a member here on YouTube. Eve Vanguard is having a completely free-to-play event right now called Operation Nemesis, available right now at evevanguard.com, where you can sign into this FPS and get playing. But if you haven't heard of it before, you should know about EVE Online. This is a massive game that has thousands of players online at any given moment, ready to build up their team's economy, engaging in space politics, and sometimes even going into all-out war with other factions. This is the stuff of online legend, like the infamous bloodbath incident in 2014, where an estimated $300,000 of damage was done to ships in-game. That's the real-world value, by the way, not fake space dollars. Well, now the team at CCP is adding another layer to those political machinations with Eve Vanguard, a new MMOFPS set in the Eve universe. And yes, Vanguard will have a direct impact on the economic connections to the infamous Eve Online universe. But if you're not into that, it's also going to be a standalone FPS where you can hop in and have fun shooting and looting your way to victory. Joining me today are Eve Vanguard Game Director Scott Davis and Eve Creative Director Bergur Finnbogason. Guys, it's great to have you today. How are you doing?
Doing really well. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm excited to talk with you about this Operation Nemesis, what Eve Vanguard is. It's really exciting. First question, I tried to set it up in the intro, but maybe you can give me your interpretation of what Eve Vanguard is and what it's going to mean to your existing player base.
Yeah, well, I'll kick off. So, Eve Vanguard is a persistent sandbox shooter. We are on a journey. We're in pre-alpha still. So it's pre-alpha. We announced that we're going to be going into early access next summer. So we're still on a journey. And we're trying to make the coolest shooter that anyone's ever tried to make, really, in terms of we want to build a true MMO FPS. A lot of people have come close and a lot of people have made games that feel very similar to that, but the type of game that we're making is we want to lean into the kind of DNA of what's made EVE Online last for 22
years.
22 years now, right? Which is putting players at the center of being the engine of what drives the game. And we want to make a multiplayer game that puts people in the universe of EVE Online, puts them on the planet, puts a gun in their hand, makes a kick-ass shooter, but also puts you in touch with that whole sentiment of it's one universe, one war. People fighting in space, people fighting on the ground, and that whole MMO mentality of everyone's in this together. There is only one EVE universe, right? There is only one shard. If a bit of territory turns over from one faction to another, everyone sees that. And building an FPS in that realm where people running around and shooting can also impact that universe that has hundreds of thousands of people already warring in it. Like, you know, why the hell wouldn't you want to make that? And that's what we're building towards. Operation Nemesis, it's coming September 16th. And free to play for all, is us working towards those goals, is building out, you know, this war in New Eden, the universe of EVE Online. Operation Nemesis is the next battle for the Vanguard, and getting people in. We want to build this game, and we have been building this game with our community.
Yeah.
And this is another step that we take about just getting people in, getting you in early. This is a pre-alpha game. Not a lot of people do this. We're going to, you know, put some guns in your hand. We're going to take you on a journey. We've got a new narrative, a new onboarding in the game, where we're going to introduce you to who you are as a character, why you exist in this world, why you should care about fighting in it. And then we just want to get people's thoughts and feedback. We want people to tell us what bits suck, what bits are really good, the bits that we need to lean into more, the bits we need to lean into less. And that's what we've been doing since we announced in 2023.
Yeah.
We've just been putting some prototypes in people's hands and just going like, how does this feel?
Yeah. I mean, we've been working on EVE Online since, like very actively working on EVE Online since like 1999, 2000. And developing Eve is a marathon; it's not a sprint. And we've really taken that philosophy into the development of Vanguard, where we're looking long term at this. This is going to be a forever game, just like Eve 1. And we really want to make sure that kind of the initial steps that we're taking are strong. So that's why we're doing these tests, and we're actually getting it in front of Eve players, so they can tell us, like, is this Eve authentic? Does it make sense? Does it extend your Eve experience and your kind of Eve reality onto the grounds, onto the surfaces of planets in New Eden?
So a long answer to a short question, but yeah, that might be where we start at least.
It's a really compelling concept and one that's very ambitious. I have to wonder, could you ever imagine a world where your existing Eve players start recruiting FPS fans to help them garner an edge or more power in the political and economic landscape that is Eve Online? Because I've heard the stories. I know how serious these players get. I'm wondering, what do you imagine this becoming?
So that's actually that has already happened. So we've been running playtests now for a couple of years, and I mean it's been a hot minute since we did the last playtest, and a lot has changed. But when we announced this yesterday that the playtest was happening next week, we've already seen recruitment ads pop up, and recruitment channels show up on Discord, and people really trying to pull people into their ranks.
We've had some corporations jump into the Vanguard Discord and try to mobilize troops because of the link that's happening between the two games during Operation Nemesis is bountiful. So players are wanting to organize and mobilize troops in Eve Vanguard to benefit both experiences, and that impact being felt across both, which is awesome. But because it's always the goal that we've been aiming for. I remember when we announced this in 2023. We were, talking a lot to players, and we always said, like, the first corporation in Eve that really takes advantage of having like a Vanguard arm and mobilizing Vanguard troops in the way that we want to have impact felt across both games, how we want both games to be fighting over the same wars and the same territories. The corporation that really takes Vanguard seriously and gets on board first going to be the ones that have the edge.
Who's had the best recruitment strategy? Have you seen any compelling offers out there, or are they making posters or anything crazy?
No, it was quite interesting. So I'm going to shout out to Onyx Rising, who I think were one of the first people to jump into our Discord after the announcement was made. So I'm going to say a shout out to them for getting something up and running so quickly. But yeah, over the last couple of years that we've been running events, we have seen people make videos and recruitment ads.
Oh, the meme is strong in this community.
It's been really great to see, because you don't know if that's going to catch on as quickly as it does. You hope it does, but you put it out there and you go, are people going to take to this? And just having people react to it to the way that it has over the last 2 years has been fantastic. The Eve Online community, in how they've been jumping into this game and telling us what they want, how Eve authentic some of this feels as well, but also understanding that they are along with us to try and bring this to a new audience, right? This isn't a shooter we're making for just Eve Online players. We want to be bringing a whole bunch of FPS players who have always wanted a game like this that feels like it's a bit more, it has a lot more purpose and meaning to it on kind of the larger community scale. We're building this game for those players as well.
Yeah, and I mean, it's been a dream of ours. I mean, since 2003, when Eve Online first came out, to kind of tell kind of human scale stories. And Eve Online is about humans dealing with humans. It's about kind of the capsuleers that fly these massive spaceships, and they group together into huge corporations and huge alliances. You have tens of thousands of people like shooting each other in the face all the time. But there is it's a little tricky for new players to kind of relate to the spaceship. So it's easier to relate to a human being. So that's been our dream from 2003, and we've tried a few times to kind of put you into a body. And we had Dust 514 that ran for a few years and on PlayStation 3, and was a fantastic game. And so we've dipped our toes in the FPS genre a couple of times, and we've got some interesting tries in the past that haven't seen the light of day. But this time around, we're really doing it. We're trying to do it as correctly as we can. hiring a kick-ass team that knows what they're doing. We're not pretending that we know how to make FPSs. Like spaceship does not equal FPS. So we're trying to do it the right way, and we're trying to do it, we want to do it with the community. We want to do it openly, and that's why we're kind of allowing players into gray box models sometimes, and kind of sometimes you have like some funky bugs that float around. But this Operation Nemesis, it's pretty well hardened, and it's been amazing to watch the team develop this crazy ass experience.
It is the I don't want to blow some of our own trumpets, but it is the highest quality pre-alpha game I've played. But that isn't us shying away from the fact that there are bugs there. There are some prototypes as well. Some of the environments are grey blocks in places.
Wait, there's bugs in a pre-alpha game?
Oh, I know. I think it's quite funny when we announced Operation Nemesis at FanFest this year. It was more guns and more bugs than you've ever seen. Because we took a snapshot of the build that week and brought it with us to FanFest and just stuck it in front of people, and it's nice. I think just getting the response. We were really nervous by like, hey, we're putting buggy builds out to people. We're putting prototypes out. Like, hey, this is something that only took us a couple of weeks to put together. Should we really be sending out to players? The response that we've got from players has been really surprising. It's been really great. I was really nervous about it. Normally, when you're working on games, you always, it's polish, right? Get it get it finished to an inch of its life, and then it's ready to go out. We are still quite a tight team working on this, so we've had to kind of min-max how we make this game, because you're right. This is an ambitious game, and how we make sure we're working on the right things in the right order is we make stuff quite quickly based on feedback. We put it out to players and we go, does this work?
Yeah.
How does this feel? Great example was when we did one of our first public tests in 2023. People wanted mining in the game. They were like, mining is crucial to EVE Online. If you're building a sandbox, we want a way to get resources. So we were like, okay, we could go away and spend a year like making mining perfect, or let's just put a prototype together in a few weeks' time. And then we just send it out to players and we go, is this what you were thinking of? And they were like, we like this, we don't like that, this is great, this is it. And then we've proved to ourselves that that's the right thing for the game and the right path moving forwards in a really quick amount of time. And that ethos still exists with us now, Operation Nemesis. There's some concepts, there's some new weapons in there. They are on the prototypey side. They're using some kind of placeholder models. But we just want to put them in players' hands and go, is this how you want to play the game? As a DMR, does that feel like an EVE Online? Does that feel like a cool sci-fi DMR? Does that feel like a pistol that echoes back to great sci-fi pistols like the plasma pistol in Halo, crossed with the Deagle in CS:GO, right? That is kind of like what we're trying to do here, and it won't really stop for us in early access either. We'll be tightening up the levels of polish of things that go into the game, but we don't want to stop this approach of making these cool little things in a short amount of time and then sending them out to players and them being the ones that validate that for us.
You brought up Dust 514 that shut down way back in 2016. What were the lessons you learned from 514 that you're implementing in Nemesis today?
Well, the first lesson was that you should not add Python to Unreal 3. We did we made some technical calls back then that kind of made it really hard to kind of dedicate the game to the latest engine and to kind of newer consoles. So that's of course a huge learning. We also learned that we learned a lot about kind of how to build communities in FPSs, and what are the things that are really meaningful to FPS players, because FPS player needs are very different from MMO player needs, and you can't really assume that what from one game just automatically applies to the other. So that's why we've been spending a lot of time and a lot of energy in building a very strong team that has experience in building games like this, and a team that's unafraid of trying new things and testing theories and kind of translating what we've learned in the space, kind of the space portion of New Eden or EVE Online, and how that kind of applies and how we translate it onto the ground.
Yeah, the DNA of Dust is definitely very much in this title. I think we've even said sometimes that this this is a kind of a successor of some sorts to Dust. It's part of the CCP DNA and EVE Online in seeing this come to life. And I think one of the things that we're really focused on as part of our DNA as well is kind of building out the things in Dust that were never able to get made because of its, it getting kind of sunset and shut down thing, and how we can realize some of the things that Dust tried or was setting up, like the orbital bombardment in Dust was all about bridging an impactful connection between, EVE Online and Dust 514. For us, that's like a challenge. We're constantly getting people in Discord being like, bring back orbital bombardment, but it's like, no, we're going to go further than that. We don't want it to just be this, there's a single link, an orbital bombardment is the two links between the game. Vanguard and EVE Online exist in the same universe, and the link that they have is going to be an always on connected thing, and the impact will be felt. So it's like, we've got a lot of Dust vets, a lot of people who played Dust in our Discord, in our community, and in our VIP program as well. And we're constantly working with them. Like we added in, we added in like a PvP mode into the game, a 9v9, off of the back of a lot of our old Dust players just wanting a way to just duke it out against each other in a team-based game. And like, we aren't just making a single mode here like Dust had. We're building kind of a game of games of sort, and leaning into what made Dust good and what people liked about it, and why people are still talking about it today. Why, one of the top comments on even a lot of EVE Online videos this day is bring back Dust, right? Is leaning into what made that really good and why people still want to play it, and getting that into Eve Vanguard and making people feel like the spirit of what they loved about that game is still felt in the game, and more, because we always want to take Vanguard far and more.
Wait, there's more.
We want to take Vanguard like far beyond the scope of what Dust was and what Dust wanted to be. And
actually, so one of the things that we're actually testing in Operation Nemesis, we're actually testing a new kind of connection point between the games. So we will actually have an event in Nemesis that will both be happening in EVE Online and in Vanguard at the same time, and both games will actually be contributing to the progression of the world, basically. This is brand new to us. A lot of new technology, a lot of fancy words that a more technical person than me can probably spend hours nerding over. But so basically, you will be called upon as a Vanguard mercenary to participate in this event, to progress a very interesting storyline that will reward players quite dramatically. Well,
I was going to ask about that. With EVE Online, are you doing anything to tease the arrival, or have you done anything to tease the arrival of this Vanguard Nemesis event?
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's actually interesting. It's something that I was going to kind of chime in what you were saying earlier about Dust. In EVE, like, EVE never stops. EVE is constantly moving forward. It's constantly evolving, and it's constantly kind of morphing and kind of shaping itself. And players, play a huge part in that. And when players lost connection to the Dust mercenaries, that didn't mean that the Dust mercenaries disappeared. Apple has actually been very active in utilizing Dust mercenaries and progressing them further. So they're still out there, but sadly, players or capsuleers lost the connection point to them. So there is there's a new enemy in town in EVE Online in New Eden, Mr. Deathless. He came across some very ancient technology that he's been kind of messing around with, and he's been kind of doing experiments with clones and with this kind of old mercenary technology, and the outcome of that experience are the Vanguard mercenaries. And in a way, the Vanguard mercenaries, we have this great saying here. I will probably butcher it, but it's this idea that the Vanguard clone, new isn't always the best. New isn't perfect. It's blood that kind of makes it perfect, and it's using it that kind of will push it forward. So we're on this very interesting journey, on this very interesting saga of taking the Vanguard mercenaries and kind of bringing them from the ground and making them these super powerful creatures.
Yeah, it's a story that started in Eve. What was the expansion where the Deathless was introduced? The Deathless Circle.
That's Revenant.
Pop quiz.
Yeah, Revenant. Yeah, so it was a storyline and a character that was introduced in Eve Online that was Vanguard then started to become a real strong part of. That the Deathless Circle within New Eden are creating these war clones based on ancient technology. And you're right, like they're not factory built. They're not just coming off a production line, because new is untested, right?
Yeah.
You want something that's blooded, that's kept somebody alive. So
New is untested.
Yeah, new is untested, right? So using this ancient technology to kind of bring these war clones, these ruthless, brutal mercenaries to life, and then setting them free into the universe as kind of agents of chaos to maybe create some disruption while they go do some nefarious affairs. But the story that we're telling in Operation Nemesis is how you come to life as a Vanguard for the first time, and that being brought to life and be given this strange purpose in the universe, that you've been created just to create chaos, and some of the moral quandaries that exist with that, but also all of the rich lore that exists, all of the characters and factions and alliances that exist in New Eden. As a mercenary, are starting to reach out to you now, because they're starting to get a little nervous about what the Deathless Circle might be building, something that we're breadcrumbing towards early access next year, where that narrative will really kind of come into light. So it's really, I've used the D&D terms for this before, like if early access for us next year is session 1, this is our session 0. Right? This is where we're kind of grounding the narrative. We're creating you as a character, and we're putting you in this environment, teaching you about how you'll place in it, how the game's going to be played, the impact and the connection that you're going to have with the wider universe, and kind of setting that all up for when we go into early access next year, when it really kind of explodes into the universe.
Yeah, and I have to correct myself. I misspoke. I don't want my awesome capsuleers shouting at me through the interwebs. Of course, the Deathless, he first came to the scene actually at FanFest before Uprising, where he infiltrated the broadcast. And then we saw him in Havoc, where he basically, he really burst onto the scene. The opening of Sarsak.
The P45 that they were writing because you got the expansion wrong is going back.
Oh, yeah, it's going back into the drawer. Saved by a bell.
For me, I'm going to be jumping into Vanguard for the first time with this Nemesis event, and I love how it's integrated with EVE Online. I think that's a really compelling mechanic and really interesting. But how are you going to work to onboard players like myself, get us up to speed, and make sure that experience is smooth when they hop into Vanguard? And who should I sign up my services with?
So we've added a new player journey to the game. It kind of the first couple of sessions that you'll be playing as a Vanguard, we want to create a safe space for you to learn the game. This is a game that has a lot of strategic depth, right? One of our weapons has over 70 modifications to it, so there's a lot of depth in how you play this game. We can't just drop people into the deep end and expect them to pick this up. So we have a new player journey that kind of narratively sets the tone, but also introduces you to systems. The first deployment that you'll go on is actually completely single player. This is something you'll just do by yourself, where it's a bit more narrative driven, and you'll be introduced to a lot of concepts of the game and how to play it. The second and third is what we're calling mingle player, which is it's a multiplayer environment, but you can't kill each other. So it's trying to establish this idea of working together in squads and working together on common objectives. Don't worry, you'll be able to run around and kill each other later, but just so you can learn about some of the concepts of this game, on the type of contracts that you complete, the type of objectives that you'll be doing, how to navigate this sandbox, and the type of activities that you'll be doing. Like one of them has you actually smuggling contraband onto an RDV ship that's come down from orbit, and you'll be doing that with other players, in kind of like little groups on the map and stuff like that. And then we kind of, once we're happy that we've taught you about the world and the systems, we then kind of give you access to the deployment map, where you can now choose from multiple planets to deploy down to in PvEVP sandboxes, as well as then being able to also play in the 9v9 competitive mode. But that's a bit more of about earning your keep and growing in power. Power is more stuff, more weapons, more modifications, which are chipsets that we call on the weapon. And then once you've got an arsenal that you're happy with, going into the more competitive modes and kind of showing off and seeing really who is top dog is what you'll be able to go through in Operation Nemesis. In terms of the types of factions as well, it's really for you who's paying the best. We've got a system in the moment called expeditions, where these factions are reaching out to you. It's all NPC at the moment, but we want to eventually branch this out into corporations and EVE Online sending down work requests and orders for you. But we've got NPC factions right now reaching out to you and saying like, hey, the Deathless Circle are onto something. We want to implant you within there. So you complete a couple of objectives for you. It's like a branching tree, so you can choose the path that you go down, unlocking different parts of narrative. But for you as well, you'll be unlocking stuff by completing those expeditions. So if after you've completed the new player journey, you want the shotgun, or you want the rifle, or you want to unlock the new pistol, there's a different faction that's going to be offering those rewards to you. So you might go, right, I'm going to go with Amar. They're offering me a contract to help get them some resources for them and to clear out some kind of Mordu's Legion troops that are, you know, creating some trouble on some planets. And for completing those expedition activities and objectives for them, I get myself a blueprint that allows me to keep manufacturing this new shotgun. That for me is payment. Morally, I don't care who I'm aligning with. I want the shotgun. They're the ones that are offering it to me. I will happily take payment. I will kill who you want me to kill. I just want the shotgun.
And after launch, how do you plan to keep players engaged? Are you going to do like unique missions, special events? Is it a battle pass system where it refreshes for a cosmetic chase? What can you tell me about those goals and the aspects of longevity for Vanguard?
Yeah, so at the center of us creating this, and this is where we really go into building more of an MMO here, is a feature that we're going to be introducing in early access called Bastions. Bastions for us are placing the players very squarely within the universe of New Eden. Bastions will exist in the universe across both games and be placed within the universe and have access to their own deployments around them. We'll be adding in more bastions over time, but for me, a really good allegory, a bastion is like a town in an MMORPG. When we're designing this feature, this is what's so exciting about working on this project now, is we're in meetings talking about references, and we're not just talking about, oh, this shooter here, or this shooter here, or this shooter here. We're talking about World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
We're talking about Final Fantasy 14 and building out an MMO and even some of the role-playing elements of it. So a bastion really is like a town in an MMORPG. You turn up, you're at a fixed point within the universe, you have quest givers there, you have access to certain markets, different metas, different items. Those towns splinter off and they have access to different dungeons and places like that. So a bastion for us is a place in space, placed within many of the different systems and regions in EVE Online. And you will have access to certain planets there. Not only will you be working through your personal progression of taking on expeditions and taking on jobs to earn more weapons and unlock access to more planets, players at that bastion will also be working as a community to level that bastion up, to gain access to different blueprint markets, or bring different quest givers, bring different factions into that bastion to get you more expeditions, unlock access to certain planets that unlock you more unique resources or different experiences. The journey that players will be going on will be around the kind of a similar way that players journey through an MMO from town to town, taking on opportunities, completing kind of quests, earning more things, access different markets, interacting with different players. So we want to populate the universe with bastions spread out. A bastion in Amar space and a bastion in Caldari space will feel, look, and have very different content from one another. And journeying through the universe to those different places starts to unlock different content and experiences for you. Like I want players to be like, oh my God, where did you get that mining laser? That mining laser is brilliant. Oh, I got that mining laser in this bastion over here. That's the only place you can get it. There's a faction there that do this expedition that will give you that. And then the players going, okay, how do I get to that bastion? They're thinking about how they can plot their route through space. And this is happening in a shooter. This is like, this is what we want to do. So we're going to lean into what has made EVE Online so rich and accessible for people to exist within it in such a long time as it has, which is putting players as at the center, at the engine of the content. We're not just going to go, right, that's it. Now we're just going to make tons and tons of weapons, and we're going to make loads of skins, and we're going to make loads of suits, and then we're just going to, that's how we're going to keep people engaged as content, is we want to keep creating experiences. And we want to create little systems that the players can just start morphing and using, you know, we talk often internally about we want to make tools and not rules. We just want to keep making tools and all of these things so players can keep tearing and rendering them to make their own little experiences. And that is the reason people are coming back, is other players pushing and pulling players around the universe as they come into conflict with one another.
Yeah, and we've already started working on tools in EVE Online to kind of prepare for the Vanguard showing up. And I think the probably the most powerful one that we've been working on is something that we call freelance jobs. And it's basically, it allows corporations and alliances in EVE to create jobs for others to complete. And we're building it in such a way that, you know, Vanguard can actually talk to it. And our long-term vision is to have EVE players create jobs for Vanguard mercenaries, and have Vanguard mercenaries create jobs for EVE capsuleers, because they need something from the other game, and there is a kind of a connection point there where you're both, you know, to complete an objective, you need to bring your, you know, massive battleship and your, you know, your Lotus ship, and you need like 150 Vanguard capsuleers, you know, blowing up this stasis webifier on a planet somewhere. And that's kind of, you know, the plan only comes together when everyone chips in.
Yeah. And I think what's more exciting to me, this might be a reflection as to who I am as a person, is where the link just creates the mundane.
Oh yeah.
is like, you know, Bergur in EVE Online just wants something from a planet that he can't get.
Yep.
So I can go down to a planet and get that. But me, as a Vanguard, I just want something moved from one bastion to another. I don't have a ship to be able to do that. And it's just creating these little work orders between, sometimes there's just the mundane existence of this life. You need this rock. I'll get you this rock. I need all of this weaponry moved from one bastion to another. Let's, you know, I'll do this for you. You do this for me. And it's not about saving the universe or killing war. It's just about, and what is often the case in a lot of EVE Online, it's about moving resources from one.
Oh yeah, and then like you have to use the restroom halfway through, and someone blows up your ship, and all of a sudden, like, I owe Scott like shitloads of weapon.
That was all of my weaponry, right? So that's the kind of interactions where we see is these two games existing in that one universe, but more importantly, that one community of players that are all pushing and pulling each other around.
Yeah, and it's a unique EVE story. It's a unique thing. A lot of people have tried to mimic this, and you know, but no one has really managed to fully recreate this. And you know, we have 22 years of you know, we've been building this awesome game, this fantastic community for 22 years, and we want to deepen it. We want to allow more people to come into New Eden to experience this incredible world. And I think this is a fantastic way of growing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. The Nemesis event, it's going to run from September 16th until October 2nd. It's free. You can just sign up at evanguard.com, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I think we're at time, guys. Pardon me. Thank you both so much for joining me to chat today. I'm really looking forward to playing, and to everyone watching or listening, thank you for joining. If you want to try out Eve Vanguard, you can right now after this airs, actually, until October 2nd with Operation Nemesis. I'll see you there. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so very much for watching and supporting. I do greatly appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell if you're watching on YouTube. Thank you so very much. And if you are on Patreon already, a big thank you, especially to the top backers, Christopher Eddy, Phil Aroni, and Aries EMS, as well as Shane Carroll over on YouTube. I need to update this list, but if you want to back and allow me to keep creating content like this, you can do so at patreon.com/SaveStatePlus, or by becoming a member right here on YouTube. I'm going to get out of here, but I will see you for the next one. Bye for now, everybody.